Hi everybody. The focus of this presentation is on defining difficulties in learning as a result of social, emotional and behavior problems. So we will analyze the barriers that children can find at school, both material or immaterial. Then we will observe the specific barriers for Roma children linked to their socio-economic situation. And finally, we will try to design some guidelines aimed at orienting school activities and learning policies. In slide number 3, we can see that children's social and environment have a direct influence in how they construct their self-concept and their representation of the world. A deprived and disadvantaged environment means that primary needs must be addressed first before having a more satisfactory life. In the next 2 slides we will briefly present the theoretical assumptions that are the base of this presentation. So the first one is the Maslow theory, developed in the 50s by the psychologist Abraham Maslow, that created a theory of basic psychological and self-fulfillment needs that motivate individuals to move consciously or subconsciously through level of those met or unmet needs. This theory can be still considered relevant for students and adults, especially in our context. Maslow's hierarchy of needs describes the basic needs that all human beings have and organizes those needs into 5 categories. So these categories, organized from lowest level to the highest level, are physiological needs, safety, love, belonging, esteem and self-actualization. So being aware of this Maslow's hierarchy is in the best interest of both teacher and students. A teacher should use his or her knowledge of this hierarchy to structure both the lesson plan and the classroom environment. And the classroom would meet as many of the needs of students as possible, especially the safety, belonging and esteem needs. Another basic theory in this topic is the multiple intelligences theory by Howard Gardner, developed in the 70s and 80s. The basic idea is that school, our traditional school system develop and work mainly with 2 kinds of intelligence, linguistic and logic mathematical, while there are 8 kinds of intelligence existing that are also spatial intelligence, musical, bodily kinesthetic intelligence, naturalistic, interpersonal and intrapersonal. So it's important to know these different possibilities and to help students to develop skills in these different fields. So which obstacles can exist concretely in school or in the classroom? Social, cultural and emotional barriers to learning are first of all motivation or availability to learn, so something personal of the student, but also social and cultural barriers. A child's ability to interact socially with their peers has a significant impact on how they progress in the classroom. The very act of learning in a classroom environment involves interacting with other students, talking through problems and finding solutions. So discussing lessons with other students helps pupils to realize their own strengths and weaknesses and enables them to improve their knowledge gaps, learning from their classmates. Other possible obstacles are emotional factors that affect learning and other personal issues that can affect learning. Having an awareness of some of these learning roadblocks can help teachers, careers advisors and parents to understand the individual needs of the students, of each child. So learning barriers affect the students differently and there is no right way to reduce them. Let's now talk about special educational needs within the education system. We usually talk about thinking about special needs, we think about disability, but special educational needs are concerning learning difficulties that make harder for a child to learn than most other children and young people of about the same age. So many children and young people will have special educational needs of some kind during their education. Early years setting, schools, colleges and other organizations can help most children and young people overcome the barriers they're difficult to present quickly and easily. So special educational needs could mean that a child or young person has learning difficulties, social, emotional or mental health difficulties, or specific learning difficulties with reading, writing, number work or understanding information, sensory or physical needs, communication problems, or medical or health conditions. So how to turn difficulties into possibilities, or how to approach special educational needs with first of all an individually designed learning program, an extra help from a teacher or tutor or learning support assistant, by being taught individually or in a small group for regular short periods, and drawing up a personal plan including setting targets for improvement, regular review of progress before setting new targets. So thinking about specific needs of Roma children at school, so how the specific barriers for Roma children can be overcome. Talking about education, Roma children education, we are still in a challenge in Europe. Data from the Roma Education Fund show that about 75% of Roma people have completed less than a primary education, and the percentage of Roma dropouts from primary schools is really high and can arrive in some countries at the 70%. So Roma schooling is also affected by high rates of absenteeism and by particular educational practices of segregation carried out in many schools. Then we have other problems like stereotypes, folk assumption, marginalization, exclusion. In the UK, they developed an index to measure the inclusion or exclusion of Roma children. So the index for inclusion provides a framework through which schools can evaluate their culture, policy and practice in relation to inclusion. There are a number of indicators that can help a school to evaluate, to assess the situation, and also they provide some guidelines, some indication to improve the situation. So according to the index for inclusion, inclusive schools value all people and staff equally, restructure their cultures, policies and practices so that they respond to pupil diversity. They reduce barriers to learning and participation for all pupils. They learn from their attempts to overcome barriers to pupil access and participation. They emphasize the role of schools in building community and developing values, as well as in increasing achievement. And they foster mutually sustaining relationships between schools and communities. So, in the last part of our presentation, we try to design some guidelines for creating or keeping an inclusive school. So the first topic is the pupil welfare. So preparing pupil for transitions, developing social skills, supporting their needs, supporting behavioral needs, and building peer relationships with other children. Second, the classroom preparation, supporting teachers' understanding of the learning and social needs of pupils, collaborating with parents and specialists, collaborating with other teachers, communicating and collaborating with pupils' peers, preparing the physical environment. Third point, school environment, facilitating emergency evacuation, providing appropriate access, providing suitable storage, adapting school grounds, providing access to trips. 4. Curriculum adaptation, differentiating curricular content, facilitating appropriate assessment, addressing pupils' choices, adapting resources, and facilitating additional supports. 5. School management, timetabling, facilitating medications, therapies, conducting risk management, maintaining records, planning for emergencies. 6. Professional development, promoting all staff responsibility, encouraging staff to accept diversity, supporting learning needs of staff, building capacity in relation to staff expertise, liaising with support services. 7th point, community development, promoting whole school awareness, liaising with the board of management, building an inclusive ethos through shared extracurricular activities, collaborating with relevant community groups, and collaborating with other schools. 8. Parental involvement, building trust, celebrating pupil success, supporting communication and collaboration, facilitating shared planning, and supporting the family through informal meetings and classes. 9. Ongoing review, so developing learning targets, measuring success, reviewing learning targets, applying for reasonable accommodations as appropriate, and exploring alternative forms of assessment. 10, and the last point is additional issues, so the capacity to develop extracurricular activities and to change the planned work. So in the final slide you will find all the sources that we we took for our presentation, all the references, and thank you for the attention.